Hello everyone. You're looking at a new set build in the virtual. This is a facsimile of the central chamber, the Chamber of Communion, in the Golden Temple that sits in the center of the vast labyrinth in the city of Seraphim in the inner earth. A long title, but I wanted to make sure you understood where this is placed. Now, when people walk the labyrinth, which they're doing constantly, different people, taking turns, but the people in the city of Seraphim, probably their most major task is to walk the labyrinth, chanting, connecting energetically to the greater Gaiosphere. Gaiosphere, that's what I want to say, Gaiosphere of the planet. And since the TZO field has been embedded, and I'm not going to go into what that is here, you should know if you're listening to this video. Since that has been, the TZO electric field has been embedded, of course, there's a real central focus for them to use that as a platform for this whole process. It centrifies it more, brings it into a clearer focus and connection to the humanity on the surface of the earth. This is a big inner earth project, this TZO electric field being embedded in the Gaiosphere. It was a cooperative effort between the inner earth and ultra cosmic beings that are helping to guardian this planet. So, back to what you're seeing here. All this work with the labyrinth and, of course, the Golden Temple has been going on long before any TZO electric embed on the planet. But this is now, being even more prominent and connective to our world since that occurred, which is only something that has been active, the TZO electric field, in this last year. It's the only thing since it's been active. So, what is this Golden Temple? Well, I spoke about it a little before, but now I'm receiving more information on the whole setup. The TZO, excuse me, the labyrinth, how it operates in the inner earth, and the Golden Temple in the center. I kept saying to you, it's like a brain. The labyrinth is like a brain because there's 5 different channels to it. So it's not as simple as you see this little circular labyrinth here. There's 5 different channels to it, labyrinth-like. And when the persons walk these, and they choose which ones to walk, and they switch and choose others, different days, whatever. So there's a constant turnover of what people are walking and what paths of the original labyrinth that is not being shown here the way I set it up. But they are switching frequencies in that. And it indeed, what Thoth told me the other day, since I made those videos, is that the whole labyrinth setup with the Golden Temple in the center and what's going on in the Golden Temple, which I'm going to be talking about here. But this whole setup, energetically, is a synergic interface with what Thoth has told me about for several years now, which is the Golden City in the brain. Over 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago, he began to speak to me about the Golden City in the brain. And this is a point in the brain that is collecting, not collecting, what do I want to say? Building an energy frequency coming directly out of the Imstra molecule, that quantum molecule in our being that's so prized and valuable, that the reason, that's why the little grays and whatever doing experiments on us more than any other reason. There's some other reasons, but that's the basic one, to try to get in to the Imstra because they feel it's such a gold mine for them for other reasons. But they can't access it, but they try, and they keep trying. But that IMSTRA molecule, the importance of it, one of the things it's doing for us now is creating the golden city in the brain. Of course, this is a metaphor for a very viable place in the brain that's being opened up, being given the nutrients it needs through and the connection to the IMSTRA to create this golden city. It's our pass. It's our pass to the new earth. And I was also shown at the time that there is a physical golden city in the new earth, in the Numis Ohm area zone of the new earth, that has been built to, like I'm doing here, a set that has been built to coordinate with that golden city in the brain. And so we have this facsimile here in Second Life, but we have more importantly, the labyrinth. The labyrinth in Seraphim. The walking of that labyrinth is walking to the golden city. What is the golden city? In Seraphim, it's represented by the golden temple in the center of the brain, you see, as you walk the labyrinth to it. Now, a lot could be said about the golden city, and we're going to be saying it through various videos. But right now, I just wanted to introduce you to the set that I've built to connect to that. And it does, in my total belief system, connect to the Seraphim labyrinth and golden temple. And here we are in the center of our little golden temple here in the virtual. So who enters this chamber of communion, or indeed the golden temple itself? Not the people, all of the people that walk the labyrinth. They don't walk the labyrinth and then come into the golden temple. They walk the labyrinth, they spend time in the beautiful gardens there. I say time, not much, but there's a certain thing about these gardens. We might be looking at that later, but right now it doesn't seem that important for what we're doing, but it is for the labyrinth walkers. In any case, they go through this almost a cooling off of energy within the garden, because they're creating a great deal of energy in their field, something we couldn't handle. If we were suddenly down there in the inner earth, in the city of Seraphim, and we were doing this labyrinth walk that takes about 30 minutes to walk, by the time we probably wouldn't even make it to the gardens. We'd probably just collapse in a little heap. It might even cause us to have a heart attack or something, because the energy is so profound. But they can handle it. We can't. Anyway, so even though they can handle it, by the time they get to the garden, they need to cool off. That's the way I'm putting it. They need to go through a process of just releasing, receiving energies. So how do they get back? They're going to have to walk back. So I'm seeing that once they have collected themselves, they start the walk back on the other side. So the ones that came up on the left side of the path, they go back on the right, because remember, the temple is sitting in the center. You have two halves of the brain. So they walk the path to get from one half of the brain. They cool off in the garden, and they walk back the other way. Now, walking back, they don't create the energy that they are getting when they're walking forward. And remember, there's several paths in all of this. So there's a specific designated path that's a walk-back path on each side. And when they walk back, they're walking back to release the codes, and they're moving in another directional field of their energy body. So by the time they get on that other side, it's like they're not all heated up again. It's the only way I can put it. And if they happen to live back on the other side, no problem. They can take a shuttle. So, this is a whole day's devotion. And the people that are doing this, there's enough people in Seraphim that probably they're doing this. Each person is devoting maybe 2 days or maybe 3 days out of their week to this. But since people don't have to earn a living, since the work is shared and the work isn't as strenuous because they're not doing things the way we're doing it, it's a much more easeful technology and pattern and the way they're doing things. I mean, there's no servants. Everybody does their share, but it's so much easier. I'm not going to go into all of that, but it just is. So you have time to dedicate to the most important thing, which is the spiritual work. The spiritual and the physical work that is a part of the spiritual, because it's very physical walking that labyrinth and doing all of that, and it takes time out of the day. I just want to get into it a little bit for you to understand this is a physical, real world. It's part of our world. And the genetics of these people, while they have a little higher star genetics there than we do here, and there are some star pockets where the beings of ultras and whatever have as their little sort of base, that they come and go from. But basically, these are human beings. They're genetically directly connected to us. They're a mixture of, different races that we have on the surface of the planet. Their ancestors come from the surface of the planet. It's important to realize that none of these races originated in the inner earth. They all originated either on the surface, and of course they're the star races that kind of mingled here and there. So when you get the setup that this is a very real physical place, there are other places, interdimensional zones, whatever, where the souls are working in different ways that we can barely even understand, and they're not attached to bodies, or if they are, they're on other realms, like even, the blue star Rigel and whatever, they're related to us, but, this is a whole more difficult thing to grasp. The new earth is a more difficult thing to grasp, even though it comes from us, but it's a world system too. The inner earth, all inner realms of the planets, because all realms, they have a real planet, what we call a real planet, has an inner aspect to it. But some of the inner realms of some of these worlds are very non-inhabited, or barely inhabited. The structure of the inner earth is very rich. And there are a whole lot of reasons for that, but that's not for me to talk about in this particular video. So their realm is not pure world system 1, which is what we're in on the surface. And it's not yet world system 2. It's an in-between. They are operating in what we used to, what the surface of the earth was more like way, way, way back, which was on the edge of being at the highest level you can get on a world system 1. I guess that's what I want to say. So the inner earth is the highest level you can get in a world system 1. The surface earth is down in the boondocks. It's way down in world system 1. It could be further, much further, but it's not in good shape. Once it was. Once there was a real, reciprocity between the inner and the outer. No more. But it has to come back to that on some level. Maybe, not entirely, but it has to reach a point where the codes can start triggering those called Light Principle 40, LP40, and that movement begins. So the walkers of the labyrinth the majority of the walkers of the labyrinth never enter the Golden Temple. They never sit in this seat of, and they certainly never sit in this seat of divine, I just named it and now I can't say it again. I want to call it Divine Communion. That was the original name I was given it, and I thought that sounded a little much, so I just called it the Chamber of Communion. The Chamber of Communion. Okay. So, who does come in here? Excuse me. It's early in the morning. My throat is a bit raw. Excuse me. sip of tea to get me going again. Well, there are personages that do come and sit in the seat of communion, and they're not just illumined. In fact, I don't think the illumined beings really do that. They may at some certain times. I think that there's certain points in time when they may do that.
Reminder. Ruda.
I'm sorry, just a moment. She's going to say it again. I should have turned everything off.
This is a reminder. Ruda.
But I'm not doing this over again because I think the information I've given you is pretty valuable, so we're going to pretend you didn't hear that. Anyway, where was I? So, who is sitting in this seat? Well, certain persons who have been assigned to carry forth in this role of, again, cycling in, working in the seat of communion, the chamber of communion in this seat. They don't just sit there all day. There's certain times they come in and they make the connection that allows the energy to the portal to connect very strongly to the golden city in the inner earth. Because remember, the main purpose of the city of Seraphim is to act as a bridge between the inner earth of this World System 1 planet and the new earth state of World System 2. Now, when we connect to the new earth, we're connecting to our future. We're jumping a timeline and we're connecting to our future. That's not true when you go into the inner earth. You're in a sort of just a little in-between energy difference, a dimensional difference. It's just a little off-center from your everyday stream because we couldn't, it's a natural way to get into the inner earth is going through this flow. You can't get to the inner earth unless you move into this omnidirectional kind of shift in your brain center to be able to do it. But it's not a completely different dimension. It's part of our system here. But the inner earth is our future. So when a person sits in this seat, like Mikala here, she is trained to connect to that frequency and hold that presence and speak to that frequency, opening it up specifically for the labyrinth energy walk that they're doing here. She's not opening the whole portal by any means. There are these huge towers that hold this frequency, as I outlined in my Seraphim article. But she is saying, look here, here's the center, come into this frequency for the labyrinth walk. And the beings in the golden city who are operating on some frequency with this, I don't know that they have a labyrinth or not. I don't think so. I haven't really gotten to that fully yet. Perhaps I will. But whatever they're doing is connecting directly through the person sitting in this seat to the labyrinth. Now, how often a person is sitting here? Is it constantly? I don't think so. There's a point when they come, they sit here, they open the gate, and certain things happen. I don't pretend to know everything that's going on with all of this. I'm sharing with you what I have been given to share, what I do know, and it is developing. It's becoming more prominent for me. As you know, I've been working with the inner earth consciously since in my 20s. But I also was reminded by Thoth the other day that I named my doll when I was 4 years old. Basically, I named her Mikala. I called it Mikala, something like that. But it was Mikala. I was mispronouncing it. And I was a little 4 or 5 year old girl on a dairy farm in the Ozarks in the early 1950s. So I don't think a lot of children name their dolls like that. In those days, anyway. They might now. So I've been working with my Mikala self all this time, but not consciously. And even when I wrote all that material on the inner earth in the early 1980s, I was doing so as a scribe of Thoth. I felt connections, and I did have some experiences. I definitely had some remote experiences. So I don't want to say that I wasn't feeling connected. I was, but not to the depth that I'm feeling now, because now is the time. Now is the time. So, as Mikala, I know that I'm one who sits in this seat, not because I'm so advanced or special. It's not about that. Many of you may be sitting in this seat as well. I don't know. We have this idea that we can't do these really spiritual, beautiful things unless we're highly advanced beings, in which we aren't. See, we have this cutoff point between these two things. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody are, we're not illumined. I'm speaking for myself here, but largely for my audience, I'm presuming. We're not illumined beings like Thoth, no. But we don't understand the chemistry of spirituality well enough. And so we cut off and we say, oh, well, that means that person has to be very highly evolved if they're doing that. Maybe, but maybe not. It depends. It depends. But when we're dealing with seraphim, for the most part, we're dealing with truly evolved spiritual people. I think we can say the same thing of us. We make mistakes. We have, karma and whatever, but we're really on the path and we're really doing our best to hold that spiritual presence. So they are in the inner. But in the inner, they have a big difference. And that is that they're dwelling in a frequency, in a vibration that's so liberating to their spiritual programs compared to where we are on the surface of the earth. We're walking through mud up here. And don't want to trash the beauty of this surface world. It's beautiful and there's wonderful things here. But basically, energetically, we're walking through mud. The spiritual beings that we are can be far freely more active in the inner earth. And if you happen to have a body in the inner earth, and including the body you have up here, well, that's really good, because then you can experience those frequencies on some states. Maybe you don't have a body there, but you have bodies other places that are good in holding a lot more light frequency than they are here on the surface of the planet. But that doesn't mean you want to get away from the surface of the planet. It means you want to bring the infusion of the light that you have in whatever bodies you have, wherever you have them, wherever physical incarnations you have, bring it into the surface of the earth here, because this planet is a special planet. It has a special purpose. And the reason we are here struggling through this frequency, there's a reason for that. It's not to escape it. It's to transform it and to prepare it, to prepare the entire planet as a whole for the light, the LP40, the light principle 40, the dynamic of ascension. So whether you're in the city of Seraphim or maybe somewhere else in the inner earth or not, is not the important issue. It's not like, oh, it's really important for you to be there. No, it's important for you to be, period. And when you be where you are now, you're going to connect to wherever you are that has body that can frequency, send that through the DNA, the paragenetics, that frequency into where you are now, the person that's listening to me on this video. So, I'm going to be creating some of my TZO videos here in the Golden Temple. Not as many as in the Labyrinth Walk. And it will be different. We won't be doing the TZO protocol here in this chamber. Thoth is guiding me to allow you to have a peak, an energy frequency peak into this chamber now and then. And we will be doing some things here. As far as the labyrinth itself, the walkway, I'll be doing more videos with that for sure, and I'm hoping to do them quite frequently. They'll be very short, much shorter than this, so it fits into your day easier. I'm not satisfied with the set I created for the walk. It's nice, it works, but it's really so, it doesn't have as much of an actual look of the labyrinth. It has a symbolic look, but not as much of an actual look. So I'm going to kind of work with it and see what I can do to make it more, because once I built this set, I went, oh, this is so much more connected to the real chamber of communion. So I want to do something that's more connected to the real labyrinth walk. The problem is, here we just have one room that we're dealing with. The labyrinth walk is, that labyrinth is so huge, it's so big, it's so complex, there's so much to it. I can't create that in Second Life, at least not on my dime. So I'm trying to find a way to bridge that gap and make it viable and yet more realistic. And so, I'm having to work with that. But this I'm pretty satisfied with. So this is really a talk today. I'm not going to try to do a process with you or anything like that, but I wanted to bring you up to speed with it all. I feel that all the work I've done in now 53 years and counting, and the beginning work that I did in the inner earth, and now my understanding of the retrieval of the symbol for the planetary genius that I've been giving out and we've all been working with. All of this is so profound, and it's brought me up to this point in my life. I'll be 71 in March, on March 10th. So this last phase of my life, I'll still be doing some writing, but my shoulders are very bad because I've been typing for so long. I've been at this computer for so long, every day. So I'm not going to be doing as much writing. I already have not been, and that's the reason, part of the reason. But I've entered a new phase, and that phase has to do with giving you imagery, but not just imagery with a bunch of pictures I get off the web or I, get from my subscription to video blogs or anything. That adds to it. But some kind of real presence, a connection. And that's why I'm working so much in the virtual and Second Life. Because I can't go out and create a David Spielberg or the Avatar guy movie. That would be great, but I can't do that. So I have the platform that I have, and Second Life is becoming more and more sophisticated for that platform. It does cost me real money to be able to do it on the level I'm doing it. But I am investing what little I have into that, some of the little I have into that, because I feel it's important to give you some kind of, not just imagery, but actual virtual presence. And when I say I feel, I should say Thoth feels. It was Thoth that guided me to bring him into Second Life in 2008, and to do what we did then, which is sort of a phase that passed. And some years passed as I was going through different things, and things were happening in my own life, but also in what I was creating in the virtual. And now we're back to saying there's a new level, dimension of work here. Because according to Thoth, and I've said this many times, but I want to say it again, I'm not just giving you a pretty picture here to give you some kind of idea what it looks like in Seraphim or other places. This is an energy field. I'm creating an energy field overlighted by Thoth that's of a more sensitive etheric level. Because anytime you work with computers, you're working in a streaming energy field that has the potential to touch into higher dimensions of being. Now, I know a lot of what's going on now with computers, with the internet, is really low-level stuff. But there's a lot of high-level stuff that's trying to break through and is breaking through. And I've been assigned to work with these energies here, even things that you will never know about that I'm creating, that are tapping into that flow and holding that frequency. So my Mikala self, sitting on occasion in the Chamber of Communion, is doing her role there. But my Maya Christine self is activating it in this way, by bridging that gap, by creating the avatars that work with that frequency here in the virtual, in Second Life. So I guess that's all I have to say for today. Definitely stay tuned for more. And these videos are being released to the general public, not held into my portal, because that's where I feel they need to go. That's where Thoth is urging me to send them. Hopefully, more and more people will watch them, will be connected through it, will feel a resonance. It's never going to be a big deal, I mean, tons of people aren't going to be attracted to these videos or what I have to say. They never have been, because they just can't feel it yet. But more and more people are being opened, I believe, and hopefully that will be the case. And I'm hoping that you, the audience, that are resonating with this, will share these free viewing videos, talks, and activations with more and more people that you feel will be open to them. So I'm going to conclude for today, and thank you for listening.